Hey guys, now that we've explored different methods for setting up constraints and animating our constraints on and off, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about how to animate your prop. So one of the things that it's important to do is to make sure that you are paying attention to the arcs that your prop is taking. So a good way to visualize that is to go ahead and create a locator. And I'm going to size this locator up to something big so we can see it. Go to the attribute editor. I will turn on drawing overrides and make it a nice color. Let's make it blue. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to align it with this object. So remember, when you're using the align tool on the Animbot toolbar, what you want to do is select the thing that you're aligning it to last. So I already have the locator selected, and actually let's name it. We're going to name this Sphere Loki. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to select the sphere. Oops. Shift select that. So now the two of them are selected. I'm going to hit the align tool. Now what I want to do is, you see that now it automatically deselects the thing that you were selecting it to. So you don't have to press anything else. I'm just going to hit W, and I'm going to pull this up in object space till I get to the tip of the sphere. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to constrain it to this control. So what you need to do is you need to select the thing you're constraining it to first, and then select your sphere. So it's control, and you say constrain, parent constrain, maintain, offset, translate, rotate, add. So now this locator is constrained to this control. It's going to follow along. So it's a good way for us to now be able to visualize the arc that is being created. Because what we'll do is we'll take this locator, and there's two different ways to visualize it. You can come up here to visualize, create editable motion trail, and make sure you have show motion trails on. So we can see the path of the arc that's being created. So now if we want to adjust this arc, we can't do it with the locator or with the motion trail. We're going to need to do it with the arm that is controlling the motion. So let's go in here, and this is kind of not a very strong pose for the wrist. I'm going to bring this down a little bit more like that at this point. Oh, but I'm not on one of my normal keys, so let me hit Z. I'm going to go to one of my keys, hit frame and G, so that inside the graph editor I'm just looking at my what's highlighted in my timeline. And now I can go in here and adjust this, and maybe part of it is actually adjusting the elbow. And that's like at this point, a nicer pose for, I'm going to go ahead and delete this, for that particular arm. But then we have to look at what is it doing to the arc, right? So I am going to delete our motion path, which is right here. Go ahead and delete that. Another way to visualize your motion path is to select your locator and come down here to the Animbot toolbar and create a motion path. So if I right click on here, you can see there's lots of different ways to visualize your motion path. Right now it's on dashed. We can switch it to a dotted line where you'll see where the key points are. Spacing temperature will show you where it's moving fast versus where it's easing in and easing out. Like green is a slower motion. Here where it's red, it's really speeding through. So it gives you a sense of the timing. You could show the frames before and after. You can change the style. And you can remove it. Another thing I really wanted to talk to you guys about was about how important it is to pay special attention to the character's grip on the prop. You want to avoid broken wrist poses. When you're holding on to something, it's not solidly locked inside of your hand. You are always adjusting your grip. Keep in mind that we have a lot of bones inside our hands, which makes them incredibly flexible. Part of the reason why we create multiple controls at the point where we're holding on to our prop is so that we can make adjustments to it in the hand. But I need to adjust this, so I'm going to add a key. Whoop. And it's important that we have the key times at the exact same place, right? So we're making this adjustment now just to make sure that it stays within his hand. And another thing here, the wrist isn't that strong. Typically, you know, your wrists are pretty flexible in Z and in X, but we want to avoid too much of this. We never want to try and have a pose like this. This is just a very broken, painful wrist. When you're holding a sword and you want the sword to be an extension of the hand, you can get some Y rotation that makes your thumb seem like a continuation of your forearm, but you're not going to want to go too much past that because we don't have a lot of leeway like this with our wrists. So when you're posing your character, if say you have this another hand that's being driven by the prop instead of driving the prop, and you're getting scary wrist poses, that's why you want to have 2 or 3 locators there or temp controls to help you to be able to make the adjustments to the hand to avoid having a broken wrist pose. Okay, so if at this point I decide I want to have a little bit stronger wrist by bringing this down, I'm not going to make it like that. You'll see that I'm going to need to use this control as well to bring it up a little bit more in his hand. And then I'll also want to go in and adjust the fingers around and the thumb around my prop. And this is perfectly natural. Here again, this wrist is, it's probably the farthest we would want to go there, but now we're going to need to adjust this prop in his hand a little bit. So these are the reasons for having those extra controls, so that you can make little adjustments, and you can go in and animate the fingers to keep the pose on the prop legitimate. Because keep in mind, our hands are very flexible. Oops, that's not gonna go. It's gotta be the inner one. To add a little bit of rotation here. Right, so there is like some going back and forth with adjusting your hand, adjusting your finger poses, and really trying to make sure that you have a nice smooth arc with your spear. I hope that this helps.